His new album, Emotional Outlets, is out now. I'm with Robert Fleischman. So, hey, Robert, you're an important part of the journey in Vinnie Vincent history, and we're going to get to all of that later on. But right now, you're here to talk about Emotional Outlets. So, listen, I've listened to the album 4 or 5 times already, and it's really an emotional body of work.
Thank you.
And the lyrics behind the song seem very personal. So, off the bat, is there a storyline to this album?
Well, it's kind of a sad storyline. I hadn't done music for about 6 years because I just painted for 6 years because I was really tired of the template of music, in the sense where everything you hear on the radio is all guitars and just guitars, guitars, guitars. And I don't have anything against guitars. I've played with some of the greatest guitar players on earth, but I'd gone to a dinner party and everybody said, "Hey, you got to go do another album." And I just kind of like, I don't know. And then I got home and I plunked on a guitar and I just go, I can't do this again. I just can't write another batch of songs with just using guitars. So in the early 80s, I had a couple of synthesizers and I borrowed a couple of synthesizers and I did a body of ambient music and techno music, and that was in the early, like, 83. And then I never released the stuff until '04. And so when you hear that, what I did in '83, it kind of still travels in a sense. And so I decided that's what I wanted to do, because I always wish I had done vocals over these synth tracks that I did and arranged them in some sort of song form. And so that's what I decided to do. And prior to that, I lost my wife. And like, her last words was just like, make the best album you've ever made. And I think that's what I did. And so I just I moved out of my house that we lived in, and I got another house, and it happened to be right on Lake Michigan. So the first song that I wrote for the whole string of songs that I wrote on the album was a song called Great Lake View. And that was the song that really just tethered me to this emotion. And I just continued on, and I had this room where I set up everything in the house, in my studio. I put together a studio, and I bought a bunch of synths and everything, and I had everything all set up, but I needed a chair. And I went, I looked in my house for a chair, and I used the chair that I would sit down and hold my wife's hand while she was, passing. And so I used that chair, and it's like everything was sort of like channeled through that chair, through her, to me. And that's what that's what this whole album is all about, this shameless promotion. And so that's what the gist of the whole album is. That's the nucleus of the album. Just completely channeled by her.
Well, Robert, I appreciate you opening up and sharing the story. I'm very sorry for your loss. Unfortunately, it's the human condition. We've all had it in our lives. I'm sorry for that, but what more of a beautiful thing than for you to take your range of emotions and put it into a body of work. It must have been difficult, but you got your inspiration from your wife and you revisited some things from your past. So if I understand this right, you had these, let's say, a lot of this, let's say, music written already, and you decided to resurrect it, or was it new stuff?
It was all from scratch.
Okay. Because I had read somewhere where you made a comment that you said you consider yourself more of a songwriter, let's say, than a performer.
Yeah.
And again, like, framing this up for our show, Metal Mayhem ROC, Emotional Atlas, it's quite a departure from, let's say, fans of rock and heavy metal. So
Oh
did
yeah.
you play 100% of everything on this album?
Yeah, except on a few tracks, I had Chips Enough from Enough's Enough play bass on it. He's been a good friend of mine for quite some time. And so, yeah, sometimes I didn't like the sound of synth bass. And so I just thought, I think it'd be better with a real bass on there. So I asked him to come in, and it turned out great, I think, you know.
What about the Robert, the you showed the album before, you held that up. It's a beautiful piece of work. Um, I think describe the image and how it ties to the album title, right? Emotional Atlas, it's a great piece of work. And also, is that something, you being an artist, you designed that image?
Yeah, I designed the whole packaging of the album. You didn't get receive an album, did you?
No, I didn't, but I've been, obviously looking at it online, and it's quite an elaborate piece. I just love the front cover.
Yeah, it's my friend Michael Webdell. He took the photo of me, and um, and then I just used collage because I do collage. I've done collage ever since I was 13 years old. So I did this, and here I'll open it up a bit. Might as well. It's all that, those old English albums, the Stones, and that glossy. Um, the album covers were all like photograph glossy.
Yes.
Those old English ones, yeah. So it's all done in that fashion, and and then you open it up, and there's more there, and we got the inside sleeve here, and we have a beautiful blue vinyl.
Wow.
And the album was an hour and 8 minutes long, so I couldn't get it on one disc. So it had to be two discs. And here's the other side, the other album. And this one's a beautiful yellow.
What made you go with the blue and the yellow? Was there a symbolism to that?
No, it's just I thought it would pop. You know, being an artist, I've like I said, I painted for about 6 years, and I've had several shows in Florida and in Chicago, and so it's something I've always done. Either I'm writing music, and when I kind of dry out that way, I bounce over to doing art, and I have like a 2,300 square foot industrial space where I paint, which is about 10 minutes away from my house.
Okay, so that's your happy place. It's your creative outlet. So,
Yeah, it's
um,
like my silent art, and then music's my sonic art.
so you are a painter, but you also do digital art, if I understand it correctly.
Yeah, I also do digital art.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, again, talking about the type of music being, again, a little bit more, let's say, electronic synthesizer heavy, right? I
Right.
described using these adjectives on the songs, and I want to talk about some of the songs: hypnotic, meditative, trippy, atmospheric, and a bit proggy at times. But what's interesting is, and this is a question, was finding the right musical vibe important to you as to complement the lyrical content of each of the songs?
Um, some songs kind of went hand in hand where the music and the melody and everything kind of came together. Others were I would just do sonic landscapes, and then I would I'd like do this drone, and then I place another drone on top of that, and then another drone, and then I have these three drones, going, and I put on the headphones, and I start hearing all these harmonics that are rubbing between the three, and then I would kind of grasp onto that, and then I would respond melodically to those harmonics, and then the words would just come out, and so I really liked that because it wasn't your typical songwriting template. It was just kind of like putting on the whole album was like me putting on the painter's hat instead of musician's hat. And so that's how I approached it, because I just wanted to do something a little left of center a bit, but yet have a great melodic tie.
Well, you captured that very, very well. And again, like you said earlier, I do appreciate you being honest and sharing that this was, a body of work off of your personal journey with your wife's battle with, an illness or passing, and then let's say your rebirth. But songs like, and I look at this block of songs, House on Fire, Comfortably in My Skin, and Name of the Game. I mean, if I have this right, the storyline feels like, hey, you're hitting your lowest point emotionally, and you sort of make a desperate plea, maybe to your loved one or to your God, to give you some sort of salvation. And then in the name of the game, you find a new beginning of sorts. But this is why I asked the question earlier, because musically and lyrically, these are all very different from one another. So take us through the creative process of this block of songs.
It's kind of, well, Name of the Game is just more of a very positive, motivating kind of lyric. And we actually submitted that song for the Paris Olympics, and we were I was kind of considered for it, but somebody else got in the mix and bumped me off. But it's that kind of song, it's like it could be a Nike commercial or whatever, or just a self-motivating kind of song. And it had a lot of it just had a great feel to it when I was recording it. And I just started improvising lyrically, and then finally I came up with the name of the game, and then I go, well, the name of the game is to, if you want to hit the big time, you gotta take it from A to Z. You gotta make it happen. Within yourself.
Yeah, the song. It's got so much pop sensibility in there. It's catchy. It's like a radio song. So I'm really pleased to see that. Again, you submitted it for a big award and you went out there for it. But Robert, it just shows the contrast, because something like, maybe one of my favorite tracks on the album is Comfortably in My Skin. And it's a long and epic track, and it's kind of tense. It's tense, but this is one where it shows you're singing, right? Here it is. We Know You Best from Vinnie Vincent Invasion. But what a wonderful vocal delivery in this song.
Thank you. Yeah. Doing the Vinnie Vincent stuff and singing in that fashion wouldn't be a matching tie and handkerchief with this album. But doing the Vinnie stuff was just that's youth. That's when you're
right.
You're in your 20s and you're all full of piss and vinegar.
But then again, on some of the songs, like a song like House on Fire, you feel that it's a rock song deep down inside. It's a melodic bluesy rocker deep down. When you listen to it, you just have to kind of overcome, let's say, the electronic piece. But and there's quite a few songs. I don't remember the other one. Maybe it was The Spark or another one. But there's a couple of rockers in there. So you can see at heart, you're still rating it from a musical point of view.
Yeah, well, I always, I can't write anything unless there's a bit of an edge to it, Otherwise, it's just, it's like Peter Pan dance.
Yeah. What about a song like, again, The Spark, right? That's another one. It's catchy. It's like, it's filled with optimism. I love the line, everyone's waiting for a spark to take them out of the dark. I guess, obviously, this was you personally saying, hey, I got to get on with it. I have a life to live, and this is what I need to do. I need to make the best of it.
Yeah, it's true. I like that song. I think it's pretty catchy. It's pretty poppy. I think it's probably, if they were to push it on the radio, I think it would really take off more than any other song on the album. It's when I first started it. It's kind of funny. I said this is like my Burt Bacharach song because of the chords and stuff like that, and then it has that kind of you know uh, piano bouncing, and it kind of reminded me like an old Supertramp song, and so it kind of like conjured that kind of feeling. So I just went along with it, and did it that way.
That's yeah, it's a strong one. Um, the pair Emotional Walls and Pretty Butterfly, these ones, yeah, got me a little choke up. I'm not gonna lie, because again, we've all
Wow.
been through what you've been through. But at the end of Emotional Walls, I think you're stating in the lyric, I can see you on the other side, and then you seemingly long to continue the love for your wife, maybe in the afterlife, using that pretty butterfly metaphor. So frame these up for us.
Um, well, Emotional Atlas was one of those songs where um, there really aren't any real chord changes per se, but the way that the melody goes and the chorus um, sort of establishes the some sense of a pattern, but below it, it's all very ambient and drony and very emotional. Just a sonic walking through a fog. And then the lyrics kind of nail it down.
Yeah.
And then the spark you said.
Pretty Butterfly, I feel, is like the
Pretty Butterfly.
complementary song to that.
Yeah. Um, the it's so hard to reach you. You're in another world. It's like that emotional thing. Like reaching out to someone on the other side, in a sense. And and you know how people like somebody will pass in their lives and they go like this bird comes through their window, and then bangs on the window and they're like, wow, this is and then it comes back again, and then they think, oh, my aunt loved birds and maybe this is my aunt or some sort of thing like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what Pretty Butterfly was like that. I had this butterfly. I was just like in I had these butterflies landing on me and coming by my window and stuff. And yeah, and so my manager, she related to that a lot because when her mom passed away, she had the experience with all these butterflies. So anyway, it's something that some phenomena that kind of happens, I believe. My aunt was into hummingbirds, and when she passed away, hummingbirds came along, and it's just a strange part of nature.
Yeah, I'm a believer in that stuff, and I'll share you something that happened in my life that's tied back to Chips enough. I have a good
Fun.
friend who passed away. His name is Herb Newman. If you brought that name up to Chip, he'll know him. He's a New Jersey guy. He died of cancer in a young age, in his 40s. And Robert, on the night we buried him, the next day was Thanksgiving morning. And at the time, my wife and I had a Basset Hound dog. And the next morning, the police knocked on our window and said, "Hey, your dog got out. We're returning it." And sure enough, we go into the cop car and it's not our dog, but it looks like our dog. And we got a laugh out of that. So we let the dog stay at our house. And after 3 or 4 days on that weekend, nobody came to claim him. So I think it was meant to be. So you know what name I named this dog? I named it Herb, because to me that was Herb sending me a pet to take care of as he just exited his human life.
Right. Yeah, there's millions of stories like that. I think everybody can relate to it in some way or another.
So Electric Rome ends the album. And I had this one on. My wife was like, "Oh, I like this one. I could dance to this one. This is cool. It's like a little electronic techno dance song." And she was
Yeah.
digging it. And I even like that you snuck in a little Alice Cooper reference in there. So I did catch
Yeah.
that. I listened to it all the way at the end.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great.
yeah,
Because
all right. So there you go. Right, I got it. But I think this one is about AI. So how have you adapted to Big Brother and AI?
Well, I don't. I I stay away from it. I haven't probably watched the news in over 3 years. I just you just turn it on and like you just open your help. You might as well just go, okay, come on, brainwash me and twist my reality. So that's what electronic Rome is about. It's just about um, the powers that be are trying to manipulate us and corral us into certain mindsets and socially designing us and 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 there's a lot of people that just flow with it and go with it and just go down the stream and just just have no questions. They're followers. So it's a song against all that, electronic room, because that's what we live in. I mean, that, you got surveillance, you got TV, you got the worst thing in the world is probably the cell phone. I call it the black mirror. You know, it's it's good, and yet it's bad at the same time. So that's what that song's all about. It's just what's going on in this planet right now in this world.
Well, you could be a
And
guy like
stop
me.
the world. I want to get off.
Well, you could have been in New Jersey. And I don't know if well, again, if you don't watch the news, maybe you don't know about this, but um, from late November through almost Christmas, there was a massive abundance of drones in the air in northern New
Yeah,
Jersey.
yeah, I did definitely heard all about that. Yeah.
And you can imagine the chaos and panic from all of the stories and things people were making up and all of the conclusions they were coming to. The absurdity was humorous in and of itself. And then here you go, is Washington, D.C. just told us yesterday that, oh, yeah, those were surveillance drones sent out by the government. But don't worry, they were just for surveillance.
Yeah, I think what was going on, and I heard way early that there was some sort of nuclear device in the areas,
Yeah.
and these drones were there to sense, try to find it. I don't. I heard it was somebody from China or whatever. But anyway, it's a wild world out that we live in now. It's wilder than ever before, I'll tell you.
Exactly.
I've
Well,
been around for quite some time. It's quite a movie.
well, that's good. You got the lake. All you got to do is turn right behind you, walk out to Lake Michigan, and all your problems go away. But Robert,
Yeah,
the album's great. It's out
thank you so
now,
much.
and we'll make sure we include links to the socials. So we want to revisit some of your important history in rock. So let's talk about your time and journey. So, you were brought in 1977 as the band was, let's say, shifting over to more of an arena rock style, or the goal to be more arena rock.
Well, they
Yet,
weren't really.
okay.
They weren't. They were when I got involved. They were going to be dumped by CBS. So they brought me in. I had done a showcase for CBS in Colorado, and they came to see me. And 3 days later, they flew me back to LA, where I'm from. And I had a meeting with all the executives of CBS, and they said they had this band called Journey, and that they were thinking about dropping them unless they could change the template of the band. And so when I was auditioning, I had written like about 7 pop songs, and so they liked my songwriting, and so they thought they would inject my songwriting into the band. Yeah. So it was, before me, the band played 15-minute, jazz rock fusion songs, and so when I got involved with it, everything was like less than 5-minute songs.
Why
So
were
I,
you in and out in 6 months, though? Why was it such a short stint?
Because CBS had this guy, this A&R guy that was putting in money and paying for Steve Perry's demos. And so Steve Perry was championed by this A&R guy, and the A&R guy called Herbie and told him that if you take Steve, we'll give you bigger budget, we'll get you more radio play, we'll get you a producer, we'll tour support, da 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 da. If you take Steve, so it was like The Godfather. I'll make you a deal that you can't refuse or something like that. Whatever it is, the saying is. But that's what basically happened. And when that happened, the band was kind of pissed off in a bit. But Herbert was quite a manager, and he could sell ice cubes to Eskimos, and he was just a great manager, and he did what he needed to do to get the band to where it was. But I'm really happy and fortunate enough to have had quite a large play in the whole structure of that band's sound and everything like that. So I'm glad that they continued in that fashion that I implemented, and it's been great. And I've always been great friends with them. Never any turmoil between any of us. I was invited to the ceremonies for the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I participated in that. So I've always had good rapport with all of them.
What in terms of, let's say, finding out you were being replaced by Steve Perry, did they disclose this to you, or was it a sign of the times like back then where all of a sudden, you get called into an office in LA on the 50th floor of some building and they're like, Robert, you need to come see us. And you're like, oh, great. What's going on here? And then you're out. Like how did that go down?
It happened very similar to what you described, but it took place on the Queen Mary in Long Beach. Yeah.
But here it is. You're saying, 40 something years later, you're still on good terms. Like, do you communicate with Neil and Greg and those guys still, or?
I communicate with Ross Valerie. I talk to him a lot. When I saw Greg Raleigh when he was playing with Ringo, when he came through town, I talked to him occasionally. Neil, I don't have much contact with him, but when we do, it's always very brotherly. And so I was really fortunate to be able to be in that band, and because of that band, I had the freedom to not have to go sell suits or something like that. So it gave me a lot of freedom in just being so experimental, and every solo album that I've done, each one is different from the other. I just hate repeating an album over and over again in the same format. So I've always have the painter's cap on when I'm looking at music, and I'm always rearranging the furniture, and I always like doing that, and I like to just get that juxtaposition and make it work.
Well, that's it. And Journey was a big early stepping stone in that. So maybe for some that don't know, I mean, you co-wrote a bunch of songs, Wheel in the Sky and some others on Infinity, and then they released a song for you, which was included on the Time box set years later.
Yeah, I mean, really like that song.
It's a great song, but putting it right out there. I mean, Wheel in the Sky is a classic Journey song. Like, do you get royalty payments for that? Like, do you have enough credit on that one where you're getting checks in the mail?
Yeah, for over 45 years.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Well,
that's awesome.
I mean, you interview a lot of people. I mean, don't they you ask them that question?
To be honest, I've never actually asked the question.
What made you ask that question?
Well, because again, you were in and out of Journey so quick, and it shows that you. It just says if you do the research, you were a contributor or co-writer to Wheel in the Sky. So the question really is, what part of Wheel in the Sky did you write? Did you write the music? Did you write the lyrics? Did you write the harmonies?
I wrote the melody and the lyrics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Neil had been fooling around with the music on his acoustic guitar, and then I guess at a rehearsal he played it on the electric guitar, and then the whole band got involved in it, and then we started arranging it, and and I wrote the lyrics probably in about 20 minutes. It's kind of funny, though. Some songs that are really get a lot of notice. Some of those songs just happen like so fast, and it's kind of stupid funny. And so, but that's one thing. And then Anytime I wrote with Greg Raleigh, and I really love that song. Um, and on the credits for that, Greg had written the music with some people that he was jamming with, so he felt that he had to give them some sort of credit. So, but basically, it was just he and I at Greg Raleigh's house. He and I just writing it on piano, and then Winds of March was a song that musically, I believe. Neil had written some music with his dad. His dad was a jazz musician, I believe. And so he wrote the music with that, and then he played me the music, and then I wrote the songs of Winds of March. And then there was one I had left the band, and I believe there was a verse that needed to be written, and so Steve Perry finished that with one verse. So it was just basically my lyrics, and then Steve finished it up, and then they put it out. But I think that's a really good album. The Infinity album was really great. I introduced them to Roy Thomas Baker, and who did Queen. And I told them about him and everything. They didn't even know who he was. And so they were just so immersed in their whole, jazz rock fusion thing. And I don't think they were very adventurous in looking out at other music, especially across the pond. And so I introduced them to Roy Thomas Baker. And I used to, when I was living in San Francisco and playing with them and rehearsing, they'd go, "Well, what'd you do last night?" And I go, "Well, I went down to, this was in San Francisco. I went to Chinatown, and I went to go see the Dead Kennedys play." They go, "The Dead Kennedys? Who's the Dead Kennedys?" And yeah, Jello Biafra and all that stuff. They had no idea of the whole the whole punk scene that was going down at that time, and so, that's just the way I am. I mean, I've always been very adventurous in that sense, and into prog stuff. Did you ever hear an Italian band called PFM?
I do not know of them. No.
They were signed. They were signed. They were signed to Manicore, which was, I believe, Emerson, Lake and Palmer's record label.
Okay.
Yeah, very interesting. Italian, and
Okay.
I think Pete Sinfield, the lyricist for King Crimson, he wrote lyrics for them, and they sang in English, and a really incredible music. Very Yes, like in a sense, but Italian. But it's really interesking.
I'll have to check that out. Let me ask you a question about Roy Thomas Baker. Like, how did you know him, or had you worked with him?
No, I had met him at the Village Recorders in Santa Monica recording studio, had met him there. And for some reason, I thought, I think this guy would be really good for him because he just did Queen. I love the phasing that he did on the vocals, and
Yeah.
the way that he did all those background vocals and everything. And I thought that he would be a good candidate to just really just change the whole sound of that band. So we had a meeting with him at Greg Raleigh's house, and we all talked to him and all that. And then after that, that's when maybe a month or so later, I was gone. But I'm glad that they listened to me in that sense and followed through with Roy Thomas Baker.
Well, thank goodness you made that suggestion. Before we get into Vinnie Vincent Invasion, you toured a little bit with Journey. Do you recall opening for Black Sabbath and Judas Priest's Journey? Because it's hard for me, being 54 years old, to imagine Journey supporting those two bands. Do you have any recollections of those?
When I was with them, we our first sort of like warm up tour was in Texas. And we played some club in Texas, and it was Judas Priest, REO Speedwagon, and Journey.
What a mix.
What a mix is right. So yeah, so that was like, I believe that was like the first couple of dates that we did. And then after that, we did other dates, and we opened up for Emerson, Lake and Palmer in Canada, and I really love that because I got to be friends with Keith Emerson, and we would jog together, and he let me play with that big stack of Moogs that he had, and he showed me how to do some patching and stuff like that, and yeah, and then later on in life, I wanted to do some recordings with a lot of friends that I'd met through my time, and so I wanted to do like little super mini groups, and I was going to record like 3 songs with like I had Frankie Bonelli was going to play on it, and then I had Tony Franklin, and then I had George Lynch. And so it was going to be this trio, and I was going to do 3 songs with them, and then I was going to do another 3 songs with my friend Rusty Anderson, who plays with Paul McCartney, and it was just going to be all this kind of little 3 songs with this band, 3 songs with that, and I was going to get a bunch of camcorders and place them all around the studio and record it and all. But unfortunately, my wife started getting really sick, so I had to completely abandoned that, and I just concentrated on her for the entire time.
Sure. Makes sense. Well, you never know what's down the road, right? So
yeah,
this is awesome,
yeah.
awesome stuff on Journey. You taught me some things I didn't know. Appreciate you opening up there. So let's say moving into the Vinnie Vincent generation for you. So Vinnie exits Kiss after Lick It Up, and he and Dana Strum had some history. So they form a band. They make some demos that were written in 84 and 85. So how and when did you get asked to come in to join Vinnie Vincent Invasion?
Well, I met Vinnie through a mutual friend, and I can't remember his name. It was so long ago. But anyway, he wrote songs with Paul Stanley. God, I can't remember his name. Anyway, I guess he had a conversation with Vinnie, and Vinnie was looking around for a singer. So Vinnie called me up. Vinnie comes over to my house. This is before Kiss, and he plays me, some of the songs that are on the Vinnie Vincent Invasion album, and I just thought, my God, this is like so freaking wild, and his guitar playing is just like bombastic, but yet he was such a good songwriter, and me being a songwriter and just going, oh no, okay, I'm not going to write any songs or anything like that. I'm just going to jump on board on this train, so that's what I did. And we did write a couple of songs together. but majority of the songs were already written. And so we went in the studio with Andy Johns, who worked with Led Zeppelin and the Stones and all that. So we went in and recorded quite a few songs. And so he had a nice body of work. I think at least maybe 5 songs, if I'm right. And so during that process, he got the phone call from Kiss, and he calls me up and says, "Hey, Kiss asked me to join the band and tour with them," and I said, "Do it. You got to go do it because you got 2 twins, you have your wife, you're living in a tiny shoebox of an apartment. Just get yourself into that and change your life." So he did it. And then I guess I don't know how long he was with the band, but he after that he called me up, and then we finished up the demos, and then it was he and I the entire time. It's like we built this house together, and now we got a for sale sign on the front lawn, and so we're ready for business. And so he went out and he sold the house without me involved. And so Chrysalis, gave him a deal. And then later on, Chrysalis is going, "Well, where's your lead singer? Where's Robert?" And now it's like, "Oh boy, I burnt that bridge, and what am I going to do?" And so I started getting phone calls from them asking me to join the band and all that. And I said no for quite some time until I just said, "Okay, well, this is what I want," and da 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 da. And so that's what happened. So I went in and I recorded the album. And when I got there to start doing vocals and everything, that's when I met Dana Strum. So Dana Strum was not in the mix until way, way after.
Okay. Interesting. So, but you look at the album, like getting into the album, I mean, some good songs on it, Boyz Are Gonna Rock, Shoot You Full of Love, Animal, Twisted, No Substitute. I remember these. But
I like No Substitute, my favorite one.
So I have 2 questions for this. One's on the visual. So I always wanted to know this. How did you get away with being the only guy that had short hair?
Well, I didn't have short hair. We went to do this photo shoot, and there was a stylist there, and he goes, "You got to do something with this guy's hair." So I thought they're going to trim it up or something like that, and then the next thing I know, they're just whacking at my hair, and I'm just like furious, and I end up looking like a fucking poodle, and so I was really pissed off. I had like my hair was kind of like one length down here, but they fucking poodleized it. And then I had to, have this stupid prop in my hand and all this, like I'm the lion tamer. And I look like I'm with like 3 inflatable drag queens. And so, it's just one of those things,
No, I don't know. I can't remember where you are on the album art, but it's like somebody's upside down. I don't know if you're upside
That's
down
good.
or one
You
of the
don't
other
remember
guys.
where I am on the album.
Well, hopefully you weren't upside down, but again, I mean, just from your opinion, I know you've really matured as an artist 40 years ago, but what do you think of that album? Thinking about it now, like, did you ever like get in the shower and decide, I'm going to sing Twisted tonight in the shower?
No, I don't like to self-inflict myself, but it's like I sang in a certain fashion for so long, and I had that range, but I never really exercised it in a sense. And when I did exercise it, it was very, very way before that, when I was much younger and all that. But I was in a band, and I sound, when I started singing and everything, people would always go reference me to whoever was popular at that time. So it was like, "Oh, you sound like Rod Stewart. Oh, you sound like Robert Plant. Oh, you sound like Paul Rogers. Oh, you sound like that, this and that." So I've had that all my life. People, putting me into those in those picture frames, and so I this was like a chance to just blow, like get a big bucket of paint and just throw it on the canvas, and that's what it was basically. That's what it was, I just went out there and just blew, you know. Um, uh, it's like a cult classic now, that album, it's bombastic. You're not there's not too many things you can correlate it with. It's its own little animal, so I'm glad, through the years and everything, you get that kind of perspective and everything. But when, it was like when you're in the deep of it, it's like, oh, I don't know about this, or it sounds stupid or whatever. But now I look at it as just like, it's just part of a a, 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 a time of your life, that just it's all youth, it's when you're young, as you grow older, things rearrange and change,
Oh, Robert, but there are albums from that generation because I was a teenager when that came out. I was 16. And, some of the albums you can still pick up and you're like, oh, God, the cheese factor's on a scale of 1 to 10. It's at 12. But other ones are cool. Like, this is a cool album, despite what you think. Even the second Vinnie Vincent album is cool. But, I've always curious, like, what went down with the Boyz Are Gonna Rock video? Because here you are, you're in it, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, but that's not actually him in it. It's he's singing, but it's not him. Like,
right.
What the hell happened?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. What the hell happened? Well, I was out of the band, and they decided to do Boyz Are Gonna Rock, and they hired um, Mark Slaughter. And Mark Slaughter was, just a kid, and it was like Mark Slaughter got cast in a movie and they said, "Hey, can you ride a horse?" Basically, and they said, "Oh yeah, I can ride a horse." So he rode the horse, but unfortunately, it was a fake horse, and he was lip syncing to my vocals, and it was really funny because everybody is calling me up saying, "Hey, listen, Vinny's video is going to be on MTV at 6 o'clock. Are you going to watch it?" And I go, "Yeah, I'll watch it." And I'm getting all these phone calls. "Hey, are you going to watch it? Are you going to watch it? Are you going to watch it?" And so I turn it on, and there it is. And all of a sudden, there's Mark Slaughter, and my voice is coming out of his mouth.
I mean,
and
how furious were you? Were you furious, or
that was
did you
like
were
the
just
very
like, it
first.
is what it is?
That was the first Milli Vanilli. Actually, it was before Milli Vanilli thing. I didn't know how to react. It was just like, I can't believe that. So, obviously, um, my lawyer said, "Hey, you got to sue these monkeys." So I did. I sued him. And so I won the lawsuit, and but then after that, I was sort of designated as a hard to get along with, hard to work with, and all that stuff. So that kind of happened for a while until that dissipated. But I always have the best thoughts for Vinny. I think he's an incredible, talented person. I just think that he surrounds himself and picks the wrong people to work with. And everybody always looks at the this guy's from Kiss, this Kiss. So everybody looks at him with dollar signs over his head, and they just think that they're going to dip into this multi-million-dollar fantasy and change their whole lives and everything. And but they don't, and they what eventually happens is they just crash the car. And I always tell Vinny, and you got to have your hands on the steering wheel of life, and you can't hand it over to anybody. And then when they crash a car, you blame them. You gotta take care of yourself on the road to life. So that. And then all the other shit that goes along with his career and all that. It's just a shame because I just think that he should just go out and just play instrumentals, write instrumentals, and he could be like Steve Vai or whatever, like
Mhm.
just go out there and play. He doesn't have to have a vocalist. If he wanted to do a song, he could sing it himself. When in the beginning of the whole project, I said you should sing your own songs instead of having me. You do such a great job on them, you know. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to have like Led Zeppelin or something like that. But he blew it because he could have had Led Zeppelin or whatever if he had kept his relationship clean with me.
Did you back to the time that you were on the album? I was looking up, and did you guys ever actually play any live shows? Because they went out and toured with
I
Alice
never I
Cooper.
never played with him live except what 8 years ago I think it was in Nashville. That was
Right.
the very first time I ever played with him.
Wow.
And
That's
singing, and that wasn't even rehearsed or anything like that. I was asked and pushed up on the stage to you know to go surprise him, and so that's what that whole Nashville thing was about.
and I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you because that was news at the time. And again, we were led to believe there was this, let's say, relaunch of Vinnie Vincent. I mean, he even went and stated that you were going to be the vocalist on the Judgment Day album. And then all of a sudden, he's got some other guy at this press conference. So, like, where do things stand now with you and Vinny? Are you friends? Do you talk?
Yeah, I'm still friends with him. I just all those things that happen to it's always these other people, these managers or pseudo managers or whatever, just it, it just ruin it. I mean, they just screw everything up. He's just he's like a guy in a pool, and they throw him these lifesavers that are just riddled with holes, and and he he just gets sucked in and drowns.
Yeah. How about your relationship with Mark Slaughter? I mean, thinking that, you left, he comes in.
Well,
I'm
through the
assuming
years,
it's
yeah, through the
water under the
years,
bridge, or you joke about it
yeah.
now.
A long time ago, I used to, make, remarks about it and stuff like that. But I met him. Oh, actually, I saw an interview with him. I watched an interview with him, and I thought, what a nice guy. He's got such a great work ethic. He was a guitar player. Gave up playing guitar to play with Vinny. Um, he's still on the road. He's still making music, and he's just a delightful person. I've met him at least 3 or 4 times through the years. I get calls from him when he's ever in Chicago area. So he'll call me up and say, "Hey, I'm going to be playing here. Come on down." So I do. I go down and see him play. So and he's going, "We got to write a song together and record something. Like that would really kill Vinny and all this stuff." But it's just kind of playing around. But I think he's a really nice guy. I think he's
Yeah.
stellar.
That's good. We want to end this segment, but Kiss fans are a little fanatical, right? And again, like you said, it's become a little bit of a cult classic. I mean, for any of these Kiss expos that you may have attended or met up with fans, anything crazy you've ever shared that you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe this person said this to me or did this to me. What's a crazy Kiss fan story for you?
Um, I Gene invited me to come to a concert, and then before the concert, they rented this auditorium, this theater in Chicago, I think, somewhere in Illinois, and they did an acoustic set. So I was invited to go to the acoustic set, and I watched them. And then afterwards, a lot of people came and got autographs and stuff like that, and took pictures with the band. And I'm standing there with Gene, and then he got a little bit busy, so I just kind of went off to the side, and then Paul Stanley walks by, I hear him and he goes, "Oh, there's Robert Fleischman. He wrote Wheel in the Sky and da 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 da." And I had no idea that he knew anything about me or anything like that. So later on, I bump into him and then we start talking. And we started talking about our kids and stuff like that, and started talking about painting because he paints also.
Hmm.
And so that was, I really, I was kind of like flattered that he knew who I was and all that stuff. So,
Uh-huh.
you know, I think he's a pretty cool guy. Um, and then, boy, I another thing is Gene's kids and my kids went to the same school. The school that the our kids went to was in Brentwood in L.A. And it was the Warner Elementary School, and they that school was just filled with all kinds of actors and actresses' kids, and production managers and lighting managers and all the stuff for big time movies. So they would have uh, Halloween shows there. So they had this huge auditorium, and they would divide the auditorium in different rooms. So the school asked me if I would write music for each of one of these scary rooms. So I write this music for each one of them. And then one of the rooms was like the Frankenstein room. So Gene was dressed up as Frankenstein laying on this big table, and then Shannon was the bride of Frankenstein, and she's in the room with him, and kids would run through, and he would get up off the table and go, "Ah," do that whole thing like that. So I thought that was really kind of off
That's
the
good.
wall. This just goes to
45.
show people are human.
Right, exactly. This is amazing, Robert. In this hour, you've covered 50 years of the past to the present and all kinds of great rock and roll stories in between. Um, Anything else you'd like to promote? Anything about your art galleries?
Right now,
Anything else you'd like to talk about?
my art is kind of on the back burner right now because I'm really concentrating on Emotional Atlas, and people can buy it on robertfleischman.com. That's where you can purchase it. I also have all my other solo albums are being put up on there, so my past um, catalog is available now, so people can do that. I have some albums, I have a lot of them, and some of them I don't. So they might run out. So get them while you can. But I'm really pushing on Emotional Atlas, and I just hope people will buy it. And like I've said before, you know people like myself and bands that come on your show and stuff like that to promote their music. We really depend on the love from the audience, and like I said, you buy an album from somebody, for $30, $50, whatever it might be. That album is such a great benefit to have, because you'd have to have probably over 1 million streams on Spotify or iTunes just to get $25. So when people buy, your merchandise or your album, you're helping that band out so much. And we're really lucky to have people like yourself, for someone like me and others, to come and talk about their history and talk about their art and their albums. And so kudos to you for championing us.
Well, thank you,
And
Robert.
are you gonna go to the Rock and Pod in Nashville? Have you heard about that?
Yes, actually, my partner, John Verno, who's up in Rochester, New York, he went in 2023, but we're not going to be attending this year, unfortunately.
Actually, they asked me to come down, so I'm
Okay.
gonna so I'm going to participate there
Excellent. Well, good
in
luck.
April.
I heard it's a lot of fun and a good networking experience. So we'll
Yeah,
make sure.
yeah. I mean, I gotta let everybody know about the album, so it's a
Yeah,
good venue to go to.
absolutely.
And
Well, we'll make sure
thank
you're
you so much for having me on your show.
Absolutely. We'll make sure we have the website up there. And we always support and we always promote to our listeners to say, buy the merchandise directly from the artist because the money's going right in his pocket. You don't have the 10 middlemen in between. So just as a reminder, head over to metalmayhemroc.com and sign up for our email newsletter, as this is the best way to stay updated on new podcasts and YouTube episodes and concert reviews. Join us on live radio on Monday nights on Metal Dev Station Radio. And if you like what we're doing, leave us subscribe to us and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. So today for my guest, Robert Fleischman, I'm Metal Walt, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.